Let's get a background there. Okay. So today we're going to talk about multitasking. So we're going to talk about killing two birds, one stone. you know, Running a small business is a daunting task. I mean, even a one-person trucking operation is 80 hours a week or more, 100 hours a week. It's amazing how much work there is to do, even for one person, one truck. And so, as a result, as the owner, you got to learn to multitask. And what this looks like is, say, for example, you put the truck in a shop for maintenance. Okay, maybe the truck's going to be in a shop for the next 4 hours getting maintenance done. And at that same time, as many truck drivers do, they'll go do their laundry, or a shower. Okay, that's normal. In addition to that, you're going to catch up on your paperwork and your accounting, and you're going to look at your finances, and you're going to review your credit, and you may go for a walk, and that's to maintain your health, and you're going to create to-do lists, and you're going to create shopping lists, and you're going to talk to other owner operators, and so on and so on and so on. It never ends. So when these things come up, you gotta think like, okay, two birds, one stone. What can I do simultaneously? Well, maybe you're being live loaded and you're on detention. Okay, you're not just gonna sit there and watch videos for 4 hours. No, you're gonna catch up on your paperwork. You're gonna look at your preventative maintenance schedule, fine tune that. You're gonna catch up on accounting and financing, and you're probably gonna reach out to some of your owner operator buddies, and you're gonna read a few articles about trucking. So you're always multitasking, always. It's like, do you ever relax? It's like, well, I'm a small business owner. At the end of the day, I'm exhausted. I go to bed, wake up, ready to go, do it again. I think what's different is when, like, you're a company driver, you pull into that terminal, you're done. You don't have to do anything. Your job was driving. You did that. Yeah, you may have to do laundry, you may have to take a shower, cook yourself something to eat, but everything else is taken care of for you. As an owner operator, nobody takes care of you at all. You do it all on your own. So when you pull on that terminal, your day doesn't stop. Now you just switch gears. You got 10 other things you have to do to run your business, to keep things run smoothly. You can't afford not to multitask. You can't do one thing and then, wait until that's done, then do one more thing, and wait until that's done, do one more thing. No, you gotta do like 3-4 things simultaneously every day. This is one of the big differences between being a company driver and owner operator. You get these somewhat ignorant company drivers who say there's no difference between being a company driver and owner operator, yet they've never been an owner operator. They just think there's no difference. It's like, okay, well, you'll find out if you ever buy a truck. And one of the things you find out as a small business owner is you really don't have a lot of time to relax. You don't ever really have a time when you're not working. You're always working. And it's like, you're on home time. Okay, that's not really time to relax. It's time to get other things done, and then get back on the road. The owner operators often say driving is the easy part. Maybe if you're like, when does the owner operator relax? Well, he probably relaxes when he's driving. As strange as that may sound. The company driver thinks he's working when he's driving. The owner operator thinks he's relaxing when he's driving. So there's so much things to do. There's 1,000 things to do, and you gotta hustle. You can't approach this lackadaisical. Being an owner operator means you're going to be a workaholic. You're running a small business. This is your livelihood. You're not going to be successful if you only do it part-time. Part-time might be what company drivers do. Owner operators, you can double that. And there's always little details. All this stuff you have to do simultaneously. You got people contacting you throughout the day. You got to return emails and phone calls and text messages and scheduling and planning, and you got to keep an eye on the industry. You got to keep an eye on truck prices, and you got to learn how to do some of these repairs yourself. I mean, the list of things to do is endless, endless. It can consume all your time. And you look back over 10 years and you're like, where did the time go? Well, you worked your ass off for 10 years. That's where the time went. And hopefully you gained something from that. But you have to learn how to multitask. You got to kill two birds with one stone. If you are a new owner operator and you approach it like you did as a company driver, you're going to be behind the 8 ball on a daily basis. You're always going to be behind. Stuff is piling up, and you're thinking you got to be a super trucker out there making 5,000 miles a week. Meanwhile, you're not getting the maintenance done. You're not taking care of your health, and your paperwork's piling up. It doesn't do you any good to be out there running 5,000 miles per week. You got to have some balance. The best performance is a balanced performance. You got to balance the miles with your health and running your business. To be satisfied with 3,000 miles a week. You don't have to get 3,500 or 4,000 miles for the week. 3,000 is good. You got to think longevity. If you're out there trying to get 4,000 miles a week every single week, you're going to burn out. Your body's not going to be able to take it. Your truck can't take it either. Even if it is under warranty, you're going to be broke down all the time. So you have to learn how to multitask. Women are sometimes good at multitasking, because they balance things like, taking care of the house and the kids and, working, and they complain that the husbands don't do a lot, which may or may not be true. But women are like natural multitaskers. I mean, they could do 10 things simultaneously. Well, as a small business owner, you got to learn how to do that. Maybe you haven't done that before in your working career or your life. You've always been like doing one thing at a time, focusing on one thing at a time. Now you got to do 5 things at a time. The complexity is magnified as an owner operator. You look at how much time you have each day. You only may spend a couple of hours running the business, because the rest of the time you're driving. You got to cram as much work in them couple of hours as you possibly can. And that may include taking a shower and doing laundry or going for a walk. So this is a skill that new owner operators may or may not have, but they will develop over the course of their career. It just comes with experience. It becomes second nature. It's like you start thinking about something that is consuming a lot of time, and you're like, okay, well, that during that time frame, I'm going to get 3 other things done. That's I haven't had time to do, and it's like I'm not going to put the truck in the shop and then sit in the driver's lounge and do nothing for 4 hours. That's a complete waste of time. That's what company drivers do. I'm going to be doing my accounting. I'm going to get my laundry done. I'm going to get a shower. I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to look at some financing, or there's always something you could do, but you can't waste your time. And sitting in the driver's lounge chewing fat with company drivers is a complete waste of time. You're a small business owner. You got plenty of stuff to do. You got to get after it. You got to learn how to multitask. You got to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. All right, guys, that's all I got for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the internet.